Hello and welcome to my presentation. My name is Sinai Camacho, and today I will take you into the deep works of Hieronymus Bosch. Here is Hieronymus Bosch, the man behind some of the strangest and most symbolic images in art history. Hieronymus Bosch was a Dutch painter. He was born around 1450 and lived until 1560. He was born Hieronymus van Aken, but later took the same Bosch from his home city. 's-Hertogenbosch, also known as Den Bosch, which is a place that formed his identity and his art. Bosch grew up in a large family of painters. His father, uncles, and grandfather all worked in the family workshop. From a young age, he was surrounded by brushes, pigments, and the daily life of artists. As he trained as a painter, Bosch was surrounded by the strange visuals of medieval life. The creatures in manuscripts, the moral pictures, the odd little figures tucked into those edges of those books. Those early images stayed with him and became the roots of his surreal imagination. As an adult, Bosch became part of the Brotherhood of Our Lady. It is a major religious group in his hometown. They created sacred art and led many of the city's rituals. By being involved with them, it helped him deepen his spiritual world and left a clear mark on the themes in his paintings. Before moving on, there's one historical detail from Bosch's world that's important to understand. This is an image of fungus called ergot, and during the Middle Ages, it often contaminated rye and wheat. Those are the grains that were used to make bread every day, but people didn't know that their food was poison. They just knew that something was off with the bread and was making the entire community extremely sick. Eating contaminated bread caused a condition called ergotism, also known as St. Anthony's fire. People who suffer from it experience burning sensations, muscle spasm, and painful sores. And even in some severe cases, their limbs could rot and fall off. It also caused intense hallucinations, where people reported seeing monsters, distorted creatures, and nightmarish visions, which you can see represented in these artworks. In the 1950s, scientists even used a chemical from ergot to create the psychedelic drug known as LSD, which later led some people to wonder if outbreaks of ergotism may have influenced Bosch's surreal imagination. Before I open Bosch's triptych, here's a quick example of how triptychs were used. This is a Dresden triptych by Jan van Eyck. On the left are the outer panels in a muted style called grisaille, which stayed closed most days. On holy days, the wings open to reveal the bright interior on the right, creating a dramatic moment for everyone in the church. Bosch uses the same structure in his triptych of the Garden of Earthly Delights. Every story has a beginning, and for Bosch, it starts here on the outside of the triptych, before Eden even exists. These outer panels show the world right before Eden was created. They work almost like a quiet introduction, a calm moment before everything comes to life. Bosch keeps the outside soft and muted on purpose. It makes the inside feel even more intense and surprising once the triptych opens, and all the color and movement hit you all at once. If you look closely, God appears in the corner holding a book and raising his hand in a gesture of benediction, the classic medieval sign of blessing. The text beside him says, "For he spoke and it came to be." Bosch uses a moment to show that the entire triptych begins with God creating and blessing the world. Opening the triptych feels almost like stepping into another world. Suddenly, everything is bright, crowded, and full of strange details. On the left is paradise. In the center is this dreamlike world of human desire. And on the right are the consequences of all of those choices. Bosch wanted the viewer to feel that shift the second that the panels open. When the triptych opens, the story begins on the left panel. Bosch gives us a calm Eden where everything feels gentle and new. God is introducing Eve to Adam, almost like a quiet moment of blessing. Adam looks a little stunned and wide open, and Eve stands there shy, but steady as she takes in this new world. What makes this scene interesting is that Bach did not originally plan it this way. He first sketched the usual creation from the rib moment, but then changed it to something that feels more like a union, a blessing that hints at love, desire, and the call to be fruitful and multiply. And even though Eden looks peaceful, it is not completely perfect. God looks straight at us, pulling us into the moment, and the placement of Adam on the right and Eve on the left quietly suggests that the tension is already forming beneath the calm. After that moment with Adam and Eve, Bach moves us into the animals of Eden. At first, everything looks calm, but when you look a little closer, the balance is already shifting. Some animals are peaceful, but others are chasing, hunting, or slipping into the water. Bach uses these little scenes to show that even in paradise, instinct and tension are already there, quietly shaping what's to come next. This is where the story shifts. Paradise fades and humanity steps into a world of pure temptation. In the center panel, everything is beautiful and overwhelming at the same time. People move through strange landscapes, giant fruits, and impossible creatures, all caught up in the moments of pleasure without thinking about what any of it means. Bach paints it almost like a dream, a world where curiosity takes over and boundaries start to disappear. And when we look closer, the details become even more stranger and more revealing. When we get close like this, the painting starts to feel almost dreamlike. People slip in and out of giant shells and cling to pieces of fruit that are way too big to belong in the real world. Everyone looks caught up in their own little moment, like they're drifting through a fantasy they don't fully understand. At first, it feels playful, but the longer you look, the more fragile everything becomes. The shells look thin, the fruit looks soft, and the people seem a little lost in whatever feeling they're chasing. Bach isn't just decorating the scene. He's showing how easy it is to get swept up in something beautiful, without realizing how quickly it can start to slip away. As we move closer into Bach's vision of hell, you can see how every part of this panel is filled with surreal, nightmarish details. Nothing here is calm anymore. Every creature, every figure, every tiny scene shows the chaos of a world that has completely fallen apart. At the top of the panel, the whole world looks like it's falling apart. The city's burning, the buildings are collapsing, the sky has this soft, eerie, red-orange glow. And in the water below, you can see the bodies drifting through the destruction, almost weightless, like even the dead have nowhere to rest. The whole scene feels quiet, empty, and already lost. Alright, now that we've explored the top section and that eerie sense of a world falling apart, let's dive into the middle portion of this panel. Here, Bach gets even stranger. This whole area is packed with these surreal, mismatched scenes that feel like pieces of a dream that don't fully connect, but still somehow belong together. You could see these odd creatures moving between people, and everything feels confused and unstable, like no one knows what's happening. This middle section shows the moment where chaos fully takes over, right before we move down to the punishments below. In this part of the panel, everything feels strange and out of control. There's a beggar on the left, exposed and vulnerable, then the giant ear with a knife through it, hinting at people who refuse to listen. Even everyday tools turn against people here. Inside the oval is a face that looks like Bach. A fish is skeering someone, and a man slides across the ice, unable to stop. Everything here feels twisted, like a nightmare you can't wake up from. In this part of the panel, Bach shows some of the harshest punishments in hell. The bird-headed demon sits like a ruler, swallowing people and dropping them into a pit below. Around him, people are trapped in painful and humiliating scenes. On the right, a pig dressed like a nun pressures a man to sign a document. Everything here shows the desire turning into punishment. So now that we've reached the end of the hell panel, I just want to bring everything together. And the music you've been hearing this whole time, it actually comes from right here, from the notes Bach painted on a man's butt. People turn it into a real melody, and that slow, eerie tune is the actual butt song hidden in the painting. Bach takes the things people once enjoyed, music, comfort, pleasure, and turns them into the very things that punish them. It's strange and something you can't forget. And it ties back to my thesis. Bach uses all this surreal imagery to show human desire and what happens when we give into it. And honestly, Bach is now my new favorite artist. Thank you all for watching.